All right, we are here today, Youth Inc., with one of my great mentors, one of the bridges of my life, Pete Miller, working over at the University of Wisconsin. We're at Bascom Hill right now. We're right outside Bascom Hill doing our thing.
Beautiful day.
Beautiful fall day. Pete, do you want to introduce yourself to the Youth Inc. community and what the work you do and what we'll be talking about today with leadership?
Sure, Alec. Thanks. Great to do this together. I'm a professor at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. We study a lot of things there, but much of it's tied to athletics and to not just how we win and how we can be better competitors, but how we grow as people. A big part of that is our focus on youth and how youth develop in that. So we have a research lab, and we study youth sports, and we study how we can develop as leaders and as good people through sports.
I love it. It's that cruxus of like the research and then athletic-based implementation. Pete and I are working currently with a group of NFL athletes developing our leadership skills. It's been fun to work together and learn quite a bit of the scholarly information so that it's not just experiential learning, what I'm learning in the locker room every day. It's really articulating some of those missions. As we're diving into youth athletes and leadership development at that age, where do you feel like some of the key qualities young athletes can really start their leadership journey with?
We get so tied, Alec, into the physical part of it, and like obviously winning and being really good, which is, it's important to try to develop physically, but these other attributes, these like virtues of sport, I'd say is where our focus as parents and as leaders. I should have said at the beginning that I'm a parent of a bunch of young athletes as well. So that's probably informed me more than any study. So I guess I would start, Alec, by saying sports. One coach told me one time, sports are a low-risk place to practice virtue. What I mean by that is it's a space where I can go out with other young people, and if I fail, and I will fail, I'm going to be okay. I'm not going out into the business world and going to go bankrupt through it. I'm a young kid trying soccer. I'm a young kid trying hockey or basketball. And if I fail, I'm going to be okay. And in fact, it's good for me to fail. So I think one thing we can think about as parents is like, let's give our kids a space to fail, which sounds so crazy. But I think a lot of us, if we don't do sports, we can get to later phases of our lives and we're going to have resistance. We're going to have hard things. And I think one of the great values and benefits of sports is they allow us to have a tough loss. They allow us to work with a difficult person. They allow us to kind of feel bad about it and work through it with someone else. So I would say that's where I would start. I would say, I'd be careful how I frame that with my kid. I want you to go fail. I want to say that, but I would say that I want to keep the big picture. And it's so hard because you want your son or daughter to do well, but hey, a little failure is good for all of us.
I think about all the life lessons that I've truly internalized as the life lessons because I lost or I failed. And then you truly have that change. You have that catalyst, and then you're able to internalize it and move forward with it so much more powerfully than, okay, we just win every time and I'm not really learning anything along the way, right? Like
it's how we learn resilience. It's how we learn patience and fortitude and courage and all of these things that we know are good.
So all these virtues, one of the virtues might be self-motivation, being a self-starter. I feel like as a parent or a coach, you would want on a football field, 11 self-motivated human beings that are just go-getters. They're the catalysts of the team. Obviously, that's not reality, but as a parent or coach, how might you be able to instill one of those virtues of being self-motivated?
We know this actually from some research, Alec, is that one of the biggest squashers of self-motivation are coaches and parents, which is kind of depressing. However, but we can flip that and look at it in a good way. And a lot of that is because we want it really bad. As a parent, our emotions are tied up in our youngster or as a coach. And so much of our own experience can be a weight upon the kid. So I would say the first piece of advice would be, in some ways, try to let go of our own experiences. We can draw from our own experiences as parents and coaches, but allow your child to find his or her passion. Guide them along the way, give them support and insights, but try to let go of our preordained thoughts about what they should be or how good they should be or what it should look like for them. And that's very difficult as a coach. But I would say one of the first things is to know that our guide on the side type of mentality is a very powerful one for a youngster, especially in adolescence, when the over demanding parent isn't always the thing that keeps us going. Now, got to stay accountable, got to hold them within the rails, have discipline, all of those things, but do it with an awareness that the best thing for our kids to say self-motivated is the word self. It's not me. It's not dad motivated. You motivated.
Right. Yeah, there's a balance there, right? It's a balance of having structure and guide rails, accountability, a standard, but also supporting itself. I love that. As we're diving into leadership specifically, and young kid, I'm imagining myself trying to be a leader on a football team, and I didn't know what to say when I'm breaking down a huddle, and then I kind of feel silly when I mess up, and kids might be making fun of me, but I was willing to kind of take that risk of being a vocal leader. Obviously, leadership can look a million different ways. For a young athlete looking to start their leadership journey, or they might be extremely talented, but taking that next step in leadership, what are some other ways athletes can lead?
I think, Alec, the key point is that leadership is not only a vocal thing. Leadership is comprised of a bunch of different skills and actions. And giving a youngster the ability to understand that and to say that, you know what, you're kind of introverted or quiet, but you have these 4 other attributes that are really good things. You, like we were talking a little earlier, you have a light to shine. And what is that? I'm a great listener. I'm a really hard worker. I'm a very compassionate person. And by letting those gifts shine, by demonstrating those with openness, you can be a leader. So you don't have to be, I was introverted as a kid. I was no Alec Ingold. But I was pretty good at other stuff. So I don't think, though, I ever recognized until I became an adult that maybe I was leading in other ways by the example I set. So I think being explicit with our kids about taking an inventory about what are you good at? What do you care about? How can your light shine? What is your light to shine? Maybe you are really vocal. Hey, let it rip, man. Maybe you're not. Maybe you got some other kind of cool, quirky thing about you that brings the group up. So leadership is not just being loud or being vocal. It's a lot of things. So I think we should make that a bigger part of what we do, is to allow kids to see you can lead without being vocal.
100%. And being themselves, allowing for kids to be themselves and lead in their own way. So you have any advice for how a parent or coach might emphasize that?
We ourselves need to be less the sources of hot air coming out. It's like we need to be listeners. And so we, as parents, we know our kids. You know your kids if you're a parent. You know what they're good at. You know what, when they thrive and when they're happy and when they're energized. As coaches, a lot of us, I don't know how good of listeners we always are. Like if you think about, I coached a bunch of different teams over the years, but I recently had a group of adolescent girls I was coaching, and I tried to be purposeful about getting to know each of them a little bit and allowing them to kind of come forward in their own way. So I would say that's a really good piece of advice for a coach, is to get to know the story of the kids and allow and encourage them to lead in their own skin. Don't try to, I mean, again, balance and all these things, like challenge people. Sometimes, get people out of their comfort zones. So it's absolutely appropriate and the right thing, but start where they are. Start where they are.
I love that. And one of the pieces of leadership, there is a little bit of a burden of leadership, right? You have a higher sense of accountability, a little bit higher standard than maybe the rest of the team. What's a way that as a coach or a parent might be able to help balance that high standard and accountability, make sure that your kid feels seen, heard, valued, but also challenging them to hold themselves to a high level of standard or accountability?
The most powerful thing every coach and parent does in a sports setting is modeling the desired behaviors. Doesn't matter what we say we want out of them. If we don't model it, then everything else is undercut. So the first and best thing that you can do as a coach or parent is to model the behaviors you expect of them. If you go to any given youth sport game, then a lot of you who are listening or watching or at these events, it's a bunch of psychopaths on the sideline, and we're all in that space. We get so tied up and like, take it easy, Johnny. But we're the ones that are, you're the one that needs to chill out, So it's like, let's check ourselves first and foremost and model the behavior. If you want your kid to stay even keeled and positive, you better do it. I mean, again, basic stuff, but it's something very few of us do well as coaches or as parents. It's the best way to get them where you want them to be is to be it yourself.
Lead by example.
Yeah.
Lead a high level of standard and accountability by example.
Yeah.
As a parent or a coach. I love it. All right. As we're wrapping up, what's that one thing? What's one thing, if you're a parent, you're a coach, you're listening to this episode right now, what's one piece of advice that you would want every young athlete to hear?
Think about the greater good in sport. Why you're doing it is not to win. It's not to be famous or to be rich. That sports are beautiful. Sports are a place where we can become our best selves. So as a family, as a parent, as a coach, what are the things that you value most? What do you want your children to be? And how can sports be that lever to help you get there? I want to be a better brother. I want to be a better father, or I want to be a better friend. That has to be the heart of this, to kind of the virtue and value of sport need to be centered in how can sport help us to get to that bigger person we want to be. Again, very difficult, but there's no better place to do it than sport. There's no better place to learn these things than sport. So it has to be explicit and start there. Don't worry about if, back to Johnny, if he's first team all whatever, think about how's he treating his sister, and sports can help you get there.
Love it. Thanks for your time, Pete.
Great to be here.